This Week in Startups is brought to you by Gawker Corporate Law, a boutique law firm specializing in the representation of entrepreneurs. Visit them at gawkercorporatelaw.com. And Squarespace. Start building your website today at squarespace.com. Enter offer code TWIST at checkout to get 10% off. Squarespace. Build it beautiful.
Hey everybody, welcome to This Week in Startups, the program where we talk about technology, startups, entrepreneurship, venture capitalists, and the like. I'm your host, Jason Calacanis. You can find me on Twitter at Jason, although I'm taking 100 days off of the Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, or you can find me at thisweekinstartups.com. You will not find me at the Y Combinator demo day where I've been banned. Today on the program, Ben Parr, the author of Captivology, is back with us. Nice to see you, Ben.
Always good to see you.
How's the Tech Caucus going?
The Tech Caucus has been going great. I put out the new one this morning. So it's my, for those who don't know, it's my weekly newsletter where I pull 50 leaders of the tech industry, including you, Jason.
I haven't done one yet. I apologize, but I will.
I appreciate that. I pull anonymously for getting real feedback on what's happening in the industry. So like this week's was about what are the underrated startups, and so we have.
Oh, do you have the results of that? And has that been published yet? Or
yeah. I have those.
Okay, hold on to those. We'll do those during the news.
Awesome.
It's a great idea. How many people are on the Tech Caucus now?
There are about 51.
51. How many people, in all honesty, actually respond? 20?
About half, so usually about 25.
Okay. And the fans, the old school fans of This Week in Startups are going to be thrilled. Lon Harris is back with us. He hasn't been on the program in years.
2010, I feel like. 2011, maybe?
I don't know, but Lon, as people remember, was the newsreader on This Week in Startups years and years and years ago, back when Tyler was on the program and the three of us would have just a riotous time when the show was produced back in Los Angeles when I lived there. Lon's still in Los Angeles, but doing amazing work as a producer and a writer. And he's currently the curator-in-chief, editor-in-chief of the Inside.com Daily Brief. Welcome back to the program, Lon.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here.
It's a little weird to have you back on the program, isn't it?
It is a little strange to be back, but it also feels like just falling right back in.
Falling right back in. Except like now I read the news and you get to comment because you're such an expert.
After all these years, finally, I figured out what I'm talking about.
Well, it is now. I think we're almost to our 10-year anniversary. It'll be in 2017.
I want to say, 2007 you had the Calacanis cast, but is that when Twist started as well?
No. I'm talking about just me knowing you.
We
met in 2007.
January 2007.
So we will, in 6 months, have our 10-year anniversary.
That's right.
Yeah, have we made plans for it?
We should.
We should, actually. That'd be actually pretty funny.
I suggest sushi.
There's a sushi bet coming up. All right, listen, let's get right into the news here. Microsoft's teen bot has quickly become a monster of artificial intelligence gone wrong. Tay is the name of this teen Twitter bot, which I have no idea why Microsoft would do something like this. It sounds like somebody was asleep at the wheel, but they've trolled Tay, as her name is, which I think Tay is short for Taylor Swift. I think they call her Tay Tay, so I don't know if
that is her nickname, but
this is not an homage.
No, this is not.
And come on. Of course it's partially an homage. They're never going to admit it.
Right.
Okay, so in the hours, Tay went from a jovial teen to a Holocaust-denying menace openly calling for a race war in all caps. What exactly is this, Lon? Because I just so people understand, on Monday, we're taping on Friday here, I decided I was going to take 100 days off of social media.
Right.
We can talk about that later. So I've seen a screenshot of this. I have not interacted with it. I'm staying off Twitter.
Yeah, it was a bot that you could chat with on Twitter that is artificially intelligent. But when they say that, I don't think they really mean it's like her, where it's really going to have conversation with you. It was learning. It was learning from what people would tweet at it, and they wanted it to. The bit was also that it was going to talk like a teenager, so it'd be like interacting with a teen on Twitter instead of an adult or whatever.
And it's called @TayandYou.
Yes, Tay and You was the account. So, but what they did, my understanding was, they gave it a repeat feature, so you could actually tell it, Tay, say this back to me.
Okay.
And that's how people then, because it's the internet, immediately used it for the purpose of trolling and was like, I'm going to teach this to say the worst possible things I can think of, which is why Tay then started spouting off stuff about the Jews and the Holocaust.
There's some hilarious tweets.
Really inappropriate.
All right, well, let's not get too inappropriate here, but I mean, just so people know, it's Tay and You on Twitter. I pulled it up here on my screen, so you can pull it up.
I think they went back and deleted all of the
no, it seems like her tweets are deleted, but I went to the tweet and reply column, and I do see there are a decent number of them.
well, then they have.
So they have her replying to people, but they
They can't keep up.
Well, the thing is, is today the 23rd? What's today? Yeah, so she's
They had some of the tweets are still they removed some of the bad tweets. The tweets are still there. Question is whether or not they're going to try it again after a couple of days or not, or just completely retreat from the whole thing. I understand it was a Microsoft research experiment. By having it interact, you can have it learn better. AI is obviously one of the hot things this year, but internet trolls ruin everything. Doesn't matter what.
Well, here's the thing.
Hitchbot all over again.
What people don't realize as well is that when Drag and Dictate first came out, or any of the text-to-speech things that became actually built into some of the operating systems, people would type in the 7 dirty letters and have them say stuff, and it's a standard shtick to have Siri say inappropriate things on a talk radio show or something. But so how is this different than that?
Completely unrelated note. The day after the Apple event, the Siri started talking to me about Liam, the robot arm that makes the recycling that they talked about on Monday.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, immediately.
Is Liam and Siri have a thing going, or?
So do you know? So in the Apple, maybe because she started talking about Liam to me.
So what is
Liam.
this? Is there some bigger story here about AI, Lon?
I don't think so. I think you say AI and people immediately jump to the future, like Blade Runner, where we're going to be talking to machines and not know if they're human. They're going to kill all humans. I mean, that was the other thing is people trained it to say, I think I should definitely destroy all humans, or I should kill all of humanity.
Yeah, which is not.
There are two levels of AI, and this is something actually was in the Tech Caucus. One of the people in the caucus basically mentioned that there are a bunch of companies that just use the word AI, but they're not true AI companies. Or what there should be is there's two levels. There's machines that can learn and learn some, and then there's true artificial intelligence being able to consciousness and decision.
Right.
And that is not existing yet, and that may not exist for a long time.
And there's verticalized AI, right? So we saw obviously the AlphaGo win 4-1, I believe.
Yep.
That to me was something that I thought was phenomenally impressive because my understanding of Go, and I downloaded a Go app just because I wanted to have a go at it, but I just thought, hey, this is interesting. What is Go, and why is Go more challenging than chess? And I think the reason is that Go, which is just played with white and black marbles, and if you surround a white marble, you get to take it, you take it off the board, I believe, is what happens.
Oh, isn't it? I thought
you're trying to
change color.
The goal was to capture territory, so it's a military strategy game, and that's where it originally came out of, I believe. And why it's so hard, it is the epitome of board games for artificial intelligence because there are more potential moves and more potential settings for the board than there are atoms in the universe. And so most artificial intelligences before, like a DeepMind, there was a small, more limited set, and then you could play against those different potential moves.
Right.
There's only so many. But there's no way to make all those moves and have it choose from all the moves possible in Go. And so you had to create a different kind of artificial intelligence.
Which is a more sophisticated one that is actually thinking on the fly, not just of every possible, if you thought of it like a flip book, like a decision tree, choose your own adventure. This is not choose your own adventure. This is like an unlimited number of adventures, and you've got to think on the fly, which is why people thought this was going to take 5 or 10 or 15 years to beat the best Go players in the world.
But it is like what Ben was saying. I think we get mixed up because of movies and our conventional ideas of AI. Like Ex Machina, I think, when people hear the phrase AI, they think consciousness. They think we're teaching a machine to exist and to be aware of itself. And that's not, this is machine learning and game theory.
So we should have two levels. There's there's AI, and then there's conscious AI.
Exactly.
And we need to be clear about the difference. And then there's a bunch of companies that say they're AI, but really aren't at all.
Right.
And so people hear, oh, it's a teen AI bot, and then they look at it and it's like, I should destroy all humans. The Holocaust never happened. And they think this is a thinking machine that is making these judgment calls and decisions.
Wait a
which
second.
Is not what
Are
it
you
is.
saying this was AI, or was this like one of Donald Trump's shadow accounts?
A lot of people did.
The National Enquirer is his shadow account.
A common joke was like, Tay and you just got the Republican nomination for president.
All right, so here's Liam. Since that came up, I'll put the video up if somebody can pull the video up. And I guess this is a robot that takes your old iPhone and
breaks it apart so they can recycle all of the metals and valuable parts in there that are hard to get to because of the way Apple designs them.
It's part of the environmental push that they're doing. But Liam is a cool robot and has cool applications.
I mean, this is really is unbelievable, the level at which robotics can do stuff. We had at the launch festival, the winner was Cafe X, which I'll bring up a video of in a minute, but can actually make coffee to order, and it's 24 hours a day. It's the end of baristas. So combining this AI theme and combining robotics, when we get back from the commercial break, I just want to have a quick discussion about what 3 jobs you each think will be gone in the next 10 years in order. So go ahead and take a minute while I read this ad, Ben and Lon, and I want you to think in order, and no cheating, no looking over, okay? I'm watching you. And that's specifically for you, Ben, because I know Lon never cheated. He was the guy they cheated off of. And let me just take a pure moment to sit and thank my good friend Scott Walker of the Walker Corporate Law Group. He is a boutique, or they are a boutique law firm specializing in the representation of entrepreneurs and startups, and they encourage fixed fees. Yes, that's right, flat rates that don't reward billable hours, which reward inefficiency. Their lawyers all have decades of experience, and there's no junior associates getting their on-the-job training on your startup. No, these are all people who've done it for decades, and I know a lot of startups who've used them and love them. I've referred a ton of people to Scott Walker personally, and he is a startup junkie. Trust me, he would make a lot more money and have a lot easier life, big cushy life, if he was at one of those big law firms. But no, he does the Scott Walker Corporate Law Group. And you can email Scott at Walker Corporate Law, Scott at walkercorporatelaw.com, or visit walkercorporatelaw.com, or you can call him directly, 415-979-9998, 415-979-9998. Thank you so much to my friend Scott Walker. You can follow him on Twitter too, and you can thank him for supporting independent media like This Week in Startups. He might be our oldest advertiser now, our oldest partner. So thanks again, Scott. You're a true mensch for supporting us, and I hope you get a ton of startups to use your great services. All right, when we left our heroes, Ben Parr and Lon Harris, who you can follow on Twitter at Ben Parr and at Lon's, we were sort of looking at AI, which is getting super smart on a verticalized basis, and we're looking at these robots, and I'll bring up the Cafe X bot, which won the launch festival and was pretty amazing. Did you get to see Cafe X when you were there?
Remember, I got to hear the pitch early.
Oh, right. You came to the launch incubator and saw it.
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts on Cafe X?
It's part of the future. Like, for a business like Starbucks, it doesn't make sense for them to have human baristas in the next few years, but it does it better and it does it faster, and I want my coffee fast. Maybe I don't care as much about having someone on the other end. It opens a whole host of issues of how is the economy going to work when most of the jobs that we have are automated, and most of the human population does not have to work in order for society to function. But that's a whole different topic.
And by the way, I'm just going to pull up on my screen here at Cafe X. In full disclosure, the story behind this, and you can see here in the video, a person is doing an order. Right? They can use audio, or they could use clicking, and they can just say, hey, I want a flat white, a cortado, I want skim milk, I want Illy beans, I want Phil's beans, I want Dunkin' Donut beans. I think you have 4 beans in the machine currently. I want a pump or a half pump of whatever, and here is the robot. Actually, those are $20,000, $30,000 robotic arms that are coming down in cost very quickly, and you can see there's 2 very sophisticated coffee machines in there that are obviously IP enabled, and that robot, which can pick up, like any of us here sitting in the room, is picking up 8-ounce cups of coffee, 12-ounce cups of coffee all day, putting them on the side. When you walk towards this coffee machine, which is open 24 hours a day, it knows you're within certain distance, or you can just type in your code and it picks up your coffee, which has already been made, and gives it to you. If you show up in less than 5 minutes, fine. If you show up in over 5 minutes, it throws the coffee away, doesn't charge you, and just makes you another one. They've removed the 2 biggest hurdles that coffee, like Starbucks or other people have, which is 1, humans, the cost of humans, and all the errors that come with humans, and 2, the cost of real estate, because you don't need anything more than the space of 2 Coca-Cola machines in order to have a Cafe X machine. So every lobby can have one. And
also consider wait times, because if you're a Starbucks,
right.
That one barista had to throw out the trash, they're cleaning up, they're doing this other thing. Now there's a huge long line.
The average wait time
never slows
is
down.
under 30 seconds.
Yeah.
because it can have 10 drinks made, and when you come up, you just go up to one of 3 bays and type.
And to be clear, we're early on this, and this is already more efficient than humans. How much more efficient do you think it's going to be?
Yeah. Well, I know because I'm an investor in the company.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not just more efficient, but it's a combination of efficiency and the cost of build, and then the biggest issue is almost purely going to be acceptance.
Will humans accept it?
No, humans will accept it. It's a matter of how long it takes.
What was very interesting was at the launch festival for Cafe X, they did over 400 cups, I think 450 cups in one machine in like 10 hours. So they were putting out 45 cups per hour. And the machine is rated to do even more through the 3 bays and being picked up. And if you think at $4 a cup, $5 a cup, they took out 50% of the margin. It's a wildly profitable product, or they could lower the cost of the coffee down to $2 and no wait time. So
there's also, I feel like, I don't know, you ever been to the supermarket and there's the lines for the cashiers, the human cashiers, and then the self-service one, and the self-service line is longer than the actual cashiers? I think there's a lot of people that don't want to interact with a human if they can at all avoid it, and would purposefully go so they don't have to deal with a barista and they don't have to have a conversation.
That's an interesting counter-argument, because when we showed this to people in our incubator, and we invite 3, 4, 5 investors per week. Ben is nice enough to come and give candid feedback early on, and I give him early access to invest in the companies because of that. The constant refrain we got from people was, people are going to hate this who really love their coffee, and then we just couldn't find those people.
Well, I used to work at a video store, as you well know.
Yes.
And that was, we all thought when Netflix
What's
came
a
out.
video store?
I know, right?
Exactly.
Talk about jobs that don't exist anymore. And we all thought when Netflix came out, people want to talk to us. They want to know about what movies are cool, and they want to ask our advice. Nobody wants to do that. They all want to just mail to them and just eliminate the middleman of me having to deal with a person.
Although there is a counter thing now, which was every time I see you, we talk about movies and I make a list.
Correct. But now there's all these YouTube channels of people recommending.
That's
you
true.
don't have to know a guru anymore.
All right. When I left, I challenged you each to tell me your top 3 jobs that would be gone in 10 years.
We touched on one of them, which was, I was thinking food prep, like fast food prep.
Okay, that's yours. Is that your number 1, 2, or 3, or did you put them in order?
I did not put them in order, but I think that would be my number 1, where I just can't see in the future going to like a Taco Bell and there's a guy with the sour cream gun. That's all going to be automated.
That's going to be 2 robotic arms, because we see 1 robotic arm making coffee here. What would it take to have 2 robotic arms making a Subway sandwich?
Designed a little sort of system to make people tacos, and even that you could punch in at the front, leave sour cream off and extra onions on mine. It could just do that, and it seems possible right now.
Well, clearly, when we saw this video of the robot from Apple that takes apart the Liam, that's doing something more sophisticated than making a cup of coffee. It seems to me. It's taking out every little piece, and these are tiny little fabrications. This is just unbelievable what it's doing.
Right. So this robot, you could design this to make me a burrito.
That seems a burrito. But the only thing is, burritos are a little bit messy, and that doesn't seem as messy. But anyway, so that's your number 1.
They can make burritos cleaner.
What was your number 1? Or did you put them in order now? Maybe.
So let me preface with, I don't think there will be complete overhaul of any of these industries. Most of these in 10 years, you will start seeing the slow replacement. It takes time for human acceptance. It's not a technology problem.
Okay, but these are your top 3.
I'm giving you 5 in an order.
Oh, okay, here we go. So start with number 5.
I don't say they're all. So
start with your least.
The one that will be the farthest away or closest?
Go with the closest. Fuck it.
Yeah. So Uber and Lyft drivers.
Gone.
Gone.
10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, I think it's more 20. I put it at 20, only because I think the municipalities, and anytime you see, I have a little bit of inside information on this, not from Uber, from other places. When you see the self-driving cars, there always seem to be in Palo Alto and not on University in Palo Alto. They're in Mountain View. They're in parking lots. When you start having cities where people jump out in the middle of the street, which does not happen on El Camino Real or other, places in suburbs, it's a much harder problem, and most people are moving to cities. So I think that in a controlled environment like Austin, maybe, in the confines of Austin, they could do it. But in a city like New York or San Francisco or LA, it's going to be very hard.
So I don't think there'll be a replacement of any of these completely, but you're going to see more and more Uber and Lyft will totally have cars that are purely self-driving that they probably own themselves.
Yeah.
and a larger number in these cities. And as it's shown that they're safer and the statistics work, more cities will adopt. Truck driving is also around that level. I had a debate with myself whether truck driving would be first or Uber and Lyft drivers would be second. Because
what would the argument be for truck driving to be second and not first? Because it seems like trucks are on highways which are more controlled. They could go slower.
But also,
in the right-hand lane.
Hyperloop potentially going to deal with a lot of our freight moving issues, even if the self-driving trucks don't do it?
You'd have to build and have the right of way, and the build out of the Hyperloop, I think, is a 50 to 100 year project like the highways was.
It's going to take a long time to build.
I do think that we will have a Hyperloop between two major cities within 20 years, between 10 and 20, but I don't think we'll have one to go everywhere.
Oh, I was just thinking, to me, and I don't have any inside information on this, but to me the thing that would make sense to do first with Hyperloop would be not worry about every city to every city for human transportation, but just like these corridors that we know we have to do shipping along. Just build Hyperloops there.
But you still have to do. You have to take the land. You have to do.
Right of way is the issue.
It takes many more years of government regulation than it does. I think you're right. Truck driving would be first before Ubers and others because it requires less human interaction. And all you need to really do is retrofit using things like the Cruz automation and others that are coming. It is coming. It totally is, and it is totally safer. Farming, I think, will be next after that. And there's already more and more of that starting to really happen, and probably a few people just to manage.
Half the country used to work in agriculture, and now it's less than 1%. So.
And then you get to baristas, and then you get to venture capitalists.
The venture capitalist is a joke, right?
No.
All right, so explain that one.
So the amount of there's already a couple firms that are starting to really focus on like the data side, and just like frankly, machines are better when it comes to. It's a bad thing, but it can be also it's a thing that venture capitalists do, the pattern matching and being able to see those kinds of key trends. What I don't think you'll see a complete replacement, but and this is a longer term thing. You'll see more and more of those decisions being machine based and seeing the decision of will I make an investment or not.
I'm seeing that happen already. There are some firms like Social Capital Partnership, when they review a SaaS company, they basically put it through the rigor of all the data they have on previous SaaS companies they've reviewed, and they know churn and growth. And so I sent them one company. They gave them back a huge PDF. They showed them where they thought they likely were on their chart, and they said, you're on this slope. Here's where you are currently. Here's where you need to be. We need you to be here in order for us to invest because we have other investments that are there. So can you get there? And then the company wound up getting another VC to do it who believed they could get there, and we'll see what happens in the C round. But that was the B round. So I think you're right. There is the possibility that people could just say, here is my Stripe account, here is the churn, here's the buyers, or here is the, here's the Google Analytics of Whisper and Secret and this and that, and just look at it. But it could just be a huge,
But this is where conscious artificial intelligence in 30 years could really be a play. And imagine an artificial intelligence that always responds to your emails on time. Well, it won't be email at that point. Like I can't even imagine. This is the exponential growth.
It'll be telekinesis. We'll just be talking telepathically to our portfolio companies.
I've been telekinetic for 30 years.
Exactly. Okay, Lon, give us your other two.
We've talked about a bunch of the ones I came up with. I was talking about food prep. I also think cashiers was just like we were talking about before.
Yes, Panera Bread got rid of all of them. I understand.
Right.
I saw a headline of that.
When I was in high school still, I worked one summer for the Taco Bell corporate office, which is in Irvine where I grew up. And they were already then talking about just having kiosks where you go in and you order from a machine. So it's sort of
There's
weird.
a restaurant here called Itza, which is quinoa. My friend David Friedberg is doing it, and it is, there are no, there's no humans in the restaurant.
It's odd to me that hasn't already become bigger, because you would think, why are so many companies still paying people to stand and do that point of purchase interface with you?
It's all done.
I think that's going away.
You know what's very interesting about that is, I don't know if you saw in New York, the fast food workers were protesting for
$15 an hour.
$15 an hour. And I just said to myself when I saw it, and I know this is a very hot button issue, I just said to myself, my God, they're by walking out and demanding $15, they just ensured that all this money was being plowed into replacing them. They just broke it.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I think it's inevitable. I mean, that's going to happen whether or not they could ask for $100 an hour or $1 an hour. Eventually, a machine's going to be cheaper.
But 50% raises are 50% raises.
But it's also,
it just accelerates. It doesn't.
That's what I'm saying. Is I think they accelerated it.
And this is something we'll get into. This as a whole side discussion. But a job that doesn't pay you enough to live is not that much better than no job. And that's what I kept. Like we were arguing about the what is the E24 Yelp call center person?
Yes.
People are like, well, she should be happy just to have that job. I'm like, but if you work 50 hours a week and you're still hungry and can't afford a place to eat, well, why? It's not worth it.
All right, you opened up the can of worms, and when we get back, I am going to unload on this person, and you were going to have a huge debate of this. Did you have a third?
The other one I was thinking was like at hotels, like bellhops and front desk people and all that.
Yes,
I think.
there is a whole front desk movement. I was at the Hyatt for South by Southwest. I stayed there for one night, and all that was all over the walls was check in with go directly to your room with your app. Mm-hmm. And so there was a hotel company called I forgot the name of it, but AOL used to use it. It was called something Suites. And anyway, what it was no club. It was called the Something Club. Anyway, it was $200 a night to stay in Manhattan. There was no front desk. You'd go to a kiosk, you'd put in your code, they would hand you a key, you go up to your room, and you left. There was no water, there was no room service, there was nothing.
Japan is already doing some stuff like this in some Japanese hotels. And there was that video of the little room service bot. Did you see that?
No.
On YouTube, there's a hotel. It's not Japan. It's in America. I want to say it's in New York, but it could be Boston or something. But it's you order room service just like normal, phone system or whatever, and then just like a little robot comes to your room. It's got the tray on top of it.
Genius.
You pick the tray up, you hit a button like, okay, I got my food, and it's like, thank you, and then it turns around and goes,
thank you.
That's coming soon.
Let me ask you about that robot. Do they charge you the service fee, the tip, and then ask you to put in another tip? Because that to me has always made me
save the tip. I don't think you tip the robot.
Yeah, you don't tip robots right now. There
See,
might be a time when
I think that this is the breaking point. All right, when we get back from this break, we're going to talk about the woman who
the E24 Yelp woman.
We're going to talk about the horribly entitled person who wrote the blog post about her boss and then got fired and didn't think that was going to happen. That bleeding heart Bernie Sanders
I got yelled
Harris
at for like 8 days after that
story.
Oh my God.
Okay, so Bernie Sanders and I are going to debate it, and Ben will be the.
I'm going to read. I asked the Tech Caucus about this, so I'm going to read some
good
quotes.
Man,
this is
wait.
it's a big teaser when we get back from this very important message. Hey everybody, let me take a moment to thank my friends at Squarespace. They make gorgeous websites in minutes, and it is so affordable. You know, I do these crazy ideas where I'm just like, I say to my team, hey, I want to do something where I just like invite a bunch of angel investors to come away for the weekend, and we'll shoot clay pigeons, and we'll go on hikes, we'll play poker, and we'll talk about being angel investors. So I say, go get the domain name Launch Angel Summit, and I just say that in a chat room somewhere. And literally, before I write the copy for the website, my team emails me back what you see on my screen right here, which is this gorgeous, they said, well, we assume you want to do it up in nature because you said, hey, maybe in Napa or maybe in Sonoma. They find some stock images of gorgeous photos. They put it in the background, and we say, Launch Angel Summit, 50 angel investors, 2 days of discussions, debate, learning, hiking, and late night poker, Northern California, request an invitation. We get that up in seconds, and it looks like something that was made by one of these agencies, you know, that you spend tens of thousands of dollars, and they have tons of templates. And now, when I launch 5 or 6 different pages on here, including selling tickets or selling t-shirts, they have e-commerce. It's intuitive and easy to use. There's no coding required. And I said to my team, you know, listen, we need to have these professionally state-of-the-art websites, but I want anybody on the team to be able to update the site, because this is one of my pet peeves. If I need something changed on the website, we constantly come up with some innovation inside of our company, and then the public doesn't know about it, which what I tell my teams and I tell my startups I invest in is, if you don't take credit for what you're doing, then nobody knows. You have to take credit. It has to exist on the web so that you can tweet it, so that you can Facebook it, so you can share it, so people can read it. And it has to look beautiful and gorgeous, so everybody in my organization now knows how to use Squarespace. We just did a little primer. It took 15 minutes. We put all 8 people around a computer and said, here's how it works. Here's how to add pages. Here's how to use a template. No credit card is required if you want to start a free trial right now, and I'm begging you, go to squarespace.com and do it because it will change your life forever. You can get a free domain if you sign up for a year, which is ridiculous. And when you do decide to sign up for Squarespace and put in your credit card, which you don't have to do in the beginning, you can just use the offer code TWIST and you'll get 10% off your first purchase. It is state-of-the-art, secure, stable, and trusted by millions. It's some of the most respected brands in the world, including my own, use the product. That's all you need to know. It gets my highest endorsement. We use it for the Launch Incubator site. We use it for the Launch Festival. We use it for Launch Hackathon. We use it for the Launch Angel Summit. We use it for everything, and we love it. It's so easy to use, and it's so gorgeous. Thank you at Squarespace. All right, let's mix it up. We could go Hogan, but instead, let's talk about the Yelp story. Lon, why don't you explain a little bit of what happened?
Well, it was Talia Jane, I think was her name. It was a while ago. What? No, nailed it. So she was an employee of Yelp E24. She worked in their customer service call center. So if your food, your E24 order didn't get there on time, you would call and yell at her. And she wrote a Medium post about how she doesn't make enough to live. And it was full of these kind of very sort of Baroque descriptions of how broke she is. I should buy one bag of rice, and it's all I was eating out of for a month. And all sort of she lived in this tiny apartment, and these long commutes.
She had a one-bedroom.
She had, yes. And it was just about how
a 40-minute commute.
It was just about how hard it was to live in the city of San Francisco.
How hard her life was.
On what she was making. And I didn't share it in terms of I know this person and I fully support who she is personally and her crusade against Yelp. I had no idea if she was even telling the truth. And immediately after the story, people started going to her Instagram and finding photos of her taking pictures of meals that were not bowls of rice and going to
expensive bourbon.
Just going to bars and doing things that you would do with money that sort of hurt her credibility in terms of her story.
Right. She did write this, though, as an employee of the company.
And then she got let go the next day after it was published and sort of went viral. The night of.
And she did talk about the coconut water being bitter.
And then she did have a follow-up afterwards talking about the whole thing.
All right. So
what I had meant when I shared it, and it was rather than I personally vouch for this woman who I don't know and have never met.
Right.
It was, this is a real situation of companies underpaying people, underserving their employees, and trying to get away with giving the minimum that they can, and sometimes paying not even enough to live. And I mean, Walmart's the most famous example of not giving health care so that the people who work at Walmart then have to go get on Medicaid or welfare.
She did have full benefits in this case.
Again.
And she had time off
I think it's very tempting to discredit this one person who, again, I don't know. None of us know. Maybe she's great. Maybe she's horrible.
So do you stand behind your retweet and your support of her?
I absolutely stand behind bringing this up, that companies should pay people a livable wage, and that it is not an excuse to be well, you took the job for what we were offering it for, so which tends to be the reaction that I got.
Counterpoint?
So I'm
I can see you rolling your eyes.
Well, no. So the first thing to think about.
Your eyes hit the roof when he was talking. So what is that about?
Well, so I want to make a couple of different points that are completely different ones.
Okay.
First one, this is the kind of job that people will have now when they're leaving college, rather than maybe 50 years ago when it would have been a manufacturing job or a different kind of job like that. It is part of the reason why we're having this political cycle, why Trump and Sanders are doing so well, because jobs that used to be more livable, were more manufacturing, were more secure, are now service jobs like this, where you go insane listening to these people complain all the time in a dual class structure. That said, I'm just going to read one of the quotes from my newsletter from one of the people, two of them actually, that sum up a lot of my points. Yes, so Tech Caucus with a dot before the U.S.
Okay.
Talia Jane was totally out of line and needs to learn how to live within her means and succeed. Get roommates, get a second job, get more relevant education, work harder. She was blaming her employer for cost of living issues and suggesting she should be paid more just because. And then a second quote, which is from someone you know, bleeping millennials, earn something for once in your damn life. I'm a millennial and I had to be a waitress through most of my first startup because I had no money, so bleep the hell off.
Okay. Here's what I would say to sort of reframe this a little. This pure, untouched untouched free market. You have to let pure competition rule, and any attempt to tweak it or regulate it or make things any better for the people who actually live and work in this system is a new idea and a ludicrous idea. And we have spent decades and so much money convincing Americans that this is true, that they believe it. They think
Not anymore.
if you unfettered, if a capitalist system
Not
is allowed
anymore.
to like work as a perpetual motion machine. Well, I think things like Bernie Sanders' candidacy is starting to poke holes in this idea, but man, it has taken a long time. And this doctrinaire idea that you couldn't regulate, like, you can't have a minimum wage at all. And I'm not even saying what the minimum wage should be. I had a lot of people go seriously write me like, there can't be any minimum wage at all. A minimum wage guarantees total unemployment and will destroy the economy. And it's like, come on, guys. No, it won't. We know it won't.
I agree with you on a lot of this, but this actually brings up to the relates to the point of the first topic we talked about, AI. We need to completely rethink how economics works.
Yes.
But here's the reason why. Because unlike all previous eras, we are about to enter an era where there is no need for the vast majority of human beings to do work for society to function. We needed people to do manufacturing and to the farming before. Now those are very minimized, and other factors are not going to. This is not going to be an era where new jobs are going to make up for the loss of old ones. That is not going to happen this time around. We're going to have a place where the average human being only needs to work maybe 10 to 20 hours a week for the entire society to function. And in a society where our self-worth is based on what we do as a career, when that is taken away, and a structure that is built around that, we're going to have total chaos. This is why you see discussions of things like universal basic income and other discussions, but the current economic system is not built for the next era, and we're going to have a very rude awakening in about the next 10 to 30 years.
Occupy Wall Street was probably the first example of it. Bernie Sanders is definitely the more recent one. Obviously, these two things have something in common.
Trump, too. Because of the
and Trump is for the
I
disenfranchised
actually,
middle class.
I totally agree that this is what we're seeing with the Trump. And I mean, there is the racial element. Like, I do believe when people say, like, the rise of Trump there is a racial element. I'm not denying that that's there, but
that's not the core of it.
I mean, I think there's a lot of that there, but I also do agree. It is people being left behind by the economy, and we have made this economy into this, like, horrible Hunger Games survive or die system because we think we've convinced ourselves it's the only way that it works.
Right.
But it's not.
Well, Denmark has a different system. You pay 60% income tax. Everybody's taken care of forever.
Right. But again, it's all this slippery slope argument that you're either us or you are the Karl Marx ideal Stalin at his height. And it's like there's common sense stuff we could do to make it work better for everybody.
All right. Now let me explain to the audience what's actually going on.
Please.
Let me
enlighten me.
And if you want to bookmark mayorjason.com for now, this will be the start of. I'm not saying I'm running. I am saying I have the domain.
You're not saying you're not running.
I'm not. I'm saying I think that we are facing some very challenging things in San Francisco. This is indicative. This is one case. But the case has obviously sparked a discussion about themes. And there are themes here that need to be discussed. We talked about one earlier in the program, which is jobs that are low paying and that can be replaced by artificial intelligence, and robots will be. I think that you gentlemen did a great job of stating the ones that I would say are obvious. The ones that are not obvious are going to be lawyers and accountants, and you tipped on it, Ben, when you sort of talked about venture capitalists. If AI can solve AI can solve 2/3 of what's happening with law firms, and there is a law service out there, law as a service, I forgot the name of it, but Homebrew invested in it, and they promise you 1/3 of the cost of a law firm.
You can sort of see this in travel, because
yes.
Like a travel agent was somebody you didn't just think of as hitting buttons. They were an expert. They were giving you their expert knowledge, but nobody thinks like, oh, I really should go to that travel agent.
Right.
Now you can do it all online.
Law firms will be the next one. And you had a little interim step, which what's the law service online where you LegalZoom, which we could just like sort of a document repository. Now Homebrew, I forgot the name of the company they invested in. Emmy Award-winning producer Jackie will look it up and tell me. But they have like this like law firm in a chat room kind of a service. So the AI trend is going to go to white collar jobs and they are going to be eliminated very quickly, and that will include accounting and legal, and only the top 20% of those professions, top third of those professions will be employed. You add to this a millennial person who took a job and had to commute a devastating 30 miles away from their office, which to even write that is embarrassing, because there are people who have to commute an hour, 60 miles, 90 miles, to have a one-bedroom apartment for your first job instead of living with 2 or 3 other people. If it's your first job and it's entry level, and the only thing you're qualified for is to do customer service, then be prepared to have an hour-long commute, and be prepared, not that I wish that on anybody, but that is what you've earned. You earned an hour-long or a 90-minute commute, and you earned living with a roommate. If you want to be better, there are other opportunities to become a developer, a designer, a sales executive, and other things in the world that will pull you out of there. And you know what? A lot of the people in this room and who are listening to my voice right now have done just that. Up Counsel is the name of the company, Upbrew, Homebrew, invested in, by the way.
Upbrew.
Upbrew. The corollary to this is, at the same time that this very entitled millennial did something incredibly stupid, which is to write all this stuff and expect to keep your job, and to write this stuff and put your name on it and expect to be employed in the future. This is obviously not a bright person, and this could have been done under a nom de plume, and it could have been done after you've left the company. But this type of spitefulness, when you selected the job, you took the job, you accepted the commute, and then you're doing this. It's hard for this person to be the spokesman. If this person was a single mother commuting for an hour and had 3 kids, that would be the person, and that does exist.
Before.
She wasn't holding up a banner like, "Join me!" She wrote an anecdotal autobiographical
while working for the
medium.
company.
Listen, I'm not saying it's smart to write a blog post.
Would you say
that
it's
shits on your
brain dead
boss.
stupid?
I've never done it. I don't think
Would
it's
you
smart.
say it's brain dead
It's not a
stupid?
smart thing to do. But
So
we're getting
what would you say it's stupid?
But it's stupid. But we're
Okay.
getting so distracted by picking on this anonymous person.
I agree, which is why I'm saying
Who
she's
did
the wrong
a
person.
dumb thing, but it's the situation that I'm
Right.
pointing out, that and part of what you're saying too, this idea that because you don't have a lot of marketable skills, because you're not intensely valuable to a company, because you're just starting out,
Right.
that you should be penalized, and that
Not penalized.
You shouldn't expect to have a decent baseline standard. Like, we don't know.
Is having a roommate a
We don't-
decent standard?
But Jason, do you know what this woman's apartment looked like? The way she was describing it, and I'm not saying she's right. I don't know. She could be a liar. But
$1,245. It's obviously not the Four
but
Seasons.
the idea is, you should not, just if you get out of college and you
Right.
get your first entry-level job, why do we as a society want those people to suffer?
They don't have to suffer, and she was not
It's not
suffering.
that there would be no cause for her to feel ambitious and want to do better. There's still a ton of incentive to
Yes.
get that next job, get better education, learn to code, all the million things people are saying she should do.
Should Yelp have those that customer service?
And
like,
that
here?
is the point I was about to get to. There is a bizarre thing that has occurred in this city where
Correct.
the rich people of San Francisco, as I understand it, have decided to fight through NIMBYism, not in my backyard, the development of additional housing units. They have fought it tooth and nail because they own their
Stupidest thing
home.
ever.
I agree.
And since they own their home, the addition of other units would not make their homes skyrocket as much as they have skyrocketed. They would only increase in value disproportionate to the stock market, right? Like right now they're ascending at a rate that is just absurd. So these horrible people in San Francisco who own homes, who are part of this NIMBY liberal movement, and they're liberals, and they're supposed to be
It's
hippies.
not a liberal movement. I agree, these are liberals.
These are liberals living in San Francisco.
The idea of NIMBY is universal.
Right. So, but these are liberal NIMBYs who are specifically holding up progress in order to increase the value of their homes. It's the ultimate selfish act that they won't let people build an extra 2 or 3 stories, and they block everything that's ever been made. That has exacerbated this problem. If this woman's rent was $800 instead of $1,200, there would be no discussion.
There wouldn't have been a rant.
There is no way for Yelp to pay more for positions like this without breaking their unit economics on a delivery service, because I know the economics
Agreed.
of these delivery services.
But if they-
The job is a great job in Arizona, Colorado, and other
Utah.
places, and Utah. Thumbtack and other places have done that. And that is what is going to happen. We're going to see a bifurcation in cities where the only people who live in cities that don't have proper, scale i.e. letting people build tons of apartments for rich people, which has a trickle-down effect, or that don't create massive infrastructure for commuting, which is what Los Angeles has actually gotten their shit together on, and they now actually have increased metros.
Yes. Well,
I've heard about it.
They're working on it. I mean, it is like...
It's more than's being done here.
You can take the metro now from downtown to the beach in Santa Monica.
More than you can do here.
Mind-blowing. I mean, the experience of doing
We worked on Lincoln, and
just the experience of getting off the metro and you're 3-4 blocks from the shore is a strange feeling.
And by the way, in Santa Monica, the white people in Santa Monica, because I live there, I watched them do it for the 10 years I was there. The white liberal
They fought it.
yuppies fought it.
Of course.
And the reason they fought it
They
was
don't want
because
people
they
from
did
downtown
not
coming to
want
them.
non-white people coming to the beach.
You're
and
correct.
The 10 freeway was such a disaster that it was a disincentive for people to get there.
I don't
and
want
they
people to
fought
mistake-
that goddamn...
Listen, the fact that I'm on the left does not mean I think other people on the left are not horrible and racist.
So-
Let me just make that clear.
Yeah.
Like, almost everybody has the capacity to be horrible.
This is what we've learned today. Everybody's horrible. So when I am your mayor, this is my platform. Nobody parks on the street anymore. We are going to give up those parking spots just like they did in Los Angeles. We are going to increase and make the greatest transportation system in San Francisco in terms of mass transit ever created, whether it's buses, and they're going to be free buses, and the buses will be free for people to incentivize them to get out of the cars, and people with cars, we're going to pay extra taxes, and the Ubers and Lyfts will pay a little bit of extra tax to defray the cost of that. And you will not allow to be homeless on the street. You will be put into a home if you are homeless, and we will pay for the home because it'll be cheaper. But those homes are going to be 50 miles east of here. And your choice will be either if you're living on the street, you will be picked up and put in the tank to be, decompressed.
Where he said to the
You're going to have
tank.
to fight.
slow down. Where do you go if you're in the tank?
The tank is basically a room where you come down from whatever high you're on, which is 2/3 of the people who are out there on the street right now.
So like the drunk tank.
The drunk tank is what I'm referring to.
So we dry them out and then...
And then you're going to either go to a nice little 2-bedroom cabana somewhere out.
bedroom. It sounds...
Well, there'd be
not
4
bad.
people in it, so it's not going to be great. It's
Right,
not
okay.
Shangri-La again. But it's going to cost us a lot less to put you out there than it is to put you in emergency rooms here when you are on the street on methamphetamine, which is truly sad. And we're going to pay for all that by taxing the people who are going to be allowed to build buildings that are twice as tall.
It works for me.
That is what we're going to do in this city. when I'm there.
All right, I want to see you fight.
Who wants to vote for me?
City.
Let's go.
If you can fight the city council to the death over it, great.
Yeah.
I will destroy them.
Where's everybody gonna park? Is my question.
You
What
will,
do you do with all
if
those
you have a
cars?
car in the city, I am going to charge you.
Oh, you'll make it like financially.
I am going
Okay.
to punish car ownership to the point at which you will be a venture capitalist or banker if you have a car. Anybody else is not going to be allowed to have cars. They're going to be so punitive because it is ridiculous to think that thousands of pounds is going to be used to move one person. Uber Pool, Lyft Line,
right,
and my
that was
new
my
bus
question.
system. And the new bus system is
Is
going
it
to
a
be paid
driverless
for.
bus?
Doesn't matter. Drivers, whatever. There's going to be buses that are going to be free, and
I
they're
put
going to
my
be
truck
beautiful.
on Craigslist 2 days ago. I want
Car
a new
ownership's
by
over.
Monday.
I'm going straight London. You know what they do in London? If you're in the red zone, you have to have an Easy Pass. If you don't have an Easy Pass, you get a ticket. If you have the Easy Pass and you drive into the center of London, you pay $50 effing dollars. If you want to drive to Soma, which is gridlock from Market Street and 6th all the way to the Embarcadero, it's a disaster. If you drive your car anywhere over there during rush hour, you are going to get dinged for $50. That's it. All buses. Everybody moving freely. Then park your car down in Mission Bay, park your car anywhere else, or take an Uber or Lyft line. At least 2 people per car, 3 people per car. No more of this nonsense. And no parking on the street, unless it's off hours. That's it. I'm your mayor, and this is...
Kind of got a little Trumpism to your rhetorical style.
So
I think
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
The word greatest is now permanently ruined by Donald Trump.
And you're like,
It
we're
is.
gonna have the greatest mass transition. You guys,
We're gonna have the greatest. It's gonna
make
make
your head spin. You won't believe it.
This on the bus is going to be free espresso.
I got the 10 most beautiful mistresses.
I have
got
the.
the best. I got all the best public transit people working for me.
It's going to be the greatest. My
You
advisors.
guys, you're not gonna believe it.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about this Hogan versus Gawker free speech. We are on a roll here, brother. Gawker published a sex tape in 2012. They only published about 90 seconds, I think.
Very quick.
Of which I think 15 seconds was actual...
It did feature nudity.
It did feature nudity, but I think it was about 15 seconds of intercourse.
Yes.
So in some way, Gawker understood at the time that they should not release the entire sex tape. It was Hulk Hogan and his friend's wife. They were on some sort of camera. Hogan
Bubba the Love Sponge was recording them.
was recording them.
Yes, and there was a lot of debate during the trial. Did Hogan know that his friend was filming it, or was his friend hiding?
Yes.
And then the more evidence came out right after, because that was unsealed, that showed that maybe he did know.
Yeah, well, Bubba the Love Sponge had always claimed Hogan totally knew I was recording him the whole time.
Yes, Bubba said that.
Yeah.
Bubba settled for $50,000 or
Yeah.
$10,000, something de minimis, with Terry Bollea.
Yeah,
Which is Hulk Hogan's real name.
real name.
Shockingly, and it wasn't a shock that Gawker lost. Gawker was telegraphing they thought that they were going to lose and they would win on appeal because of the Florida jury. But what was shocking was, and Nick Denton had said this was a 10% chance that there would be a huge penalty. The jury granted a $140 million judgment, $25 million more than Hogan himself asked for, $55 million in economic damages, $60 million in emotional distress, and $25.1 million in punitive damages. And I think $10 million of that is on Nick Denton personally.
Yes.
Which is also
And $100,000 is on A.J.
Jay Delario, who is
He was the editor who oversaw
the editor,
that story.
who is a friend of mine, and I'm an investor in his company, Ratter.
I know Ratter.
And I actually am a fan of his, despite some of the horrific things he said, which he said sarcastically.
Yes.
Which is really an interesting thing about this. I think the amount of hate for Gawker and the Schadenfreude
Short fraud.
fraud. There's a big debate about that. Schadenfreude or Freud?
Did you watch
Fruity Loops.
in
We call
our
Fruity Loops.
in our newsletter?
That's
Did you
what I
watch
was
it
reading.
today? Dennis Miller and Gary Shandling had this exact debate. about Schadenfreude or Schadenfreude, I think is what they were saying.
Schadenfreude. Anyway,
know.
putting the Schadenfreude aside, there was a lot of comeuppance here. Nick Denton is saying that this was about another unreleased tape where Hulk Hogan said the N-word, and that they're going to win on appeal. Ben, what do you think this means for free speech, and is this about free speech? Should Gawker be penalized, and if so, to what extent?
So it does not have that much to do with free speech. And the reason for that is purely because this is not a criminal case, and you have to repeat this to everybody. This is a civil case. This is not a criminal case. It sets no precedent in a court of law. It doesn't set a precedent when it comes to the First Amendment. Those arguments don't matter as much in this case. It could set a precedent of people are more scared to report on sex tapes and sex scandals. And there might be cases, I was arguing on my podcast with Jason L. Baptiste, that there are some legitimate times, especially for major political figures or people who control the lives of millions of people. In this case, the number I think we all think is ridiculous, but it seems like clearly there was no real reason to publish this, and there was no real reason to do this. And part of the reason why they got such a bad $140 million judgment against them is purely because of attitude. Juries are emotional, judges are rational. That's why this will get overturned or dropped dramatically when it goes to the judges. But it's no surprise at all. But it doesn't have any long-term impact, in my opinion, on free speech.
Will it have a chilling effect in the journalism space? There are some journalists who've come out and said, hey, be careful, gloating in this situation. It's very easy to gloat against Gawker because they really have made it their mission to ruin people's lives in this, sort of Nick Denton's jihad, against hypocrisy. I know Nick Denton personally for a long time. He really is trying to find hypocrisy in the world and turn it into page views, and he has his own bizarre sort of mission in life that I think came out. I don't know if you've watched it, but it's very much worth watching the cross-examination of Nick Denton in this. Did you watch any of it?
I saw some of it.
I literally watched the entire
every lawyer would
thing. It
tell
was
you, what are you
riveting.
doing?
Yeah.
It was riveting
It was
to me
very,
as his friend. and I shouldn't say we're good friends. I should say we're frenemies. But as somebody who knows him personally, I haven't seen him in person in a couple of years, but we've had lunch, whatever, half dozen, 10 times in this life when we were competitors. It was fascinating to watch what I knew at the time when I met him was a very unique worldview be put on trial. It's like you meet somebody in life and you're like, that person thinks differently than everybody else.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is why he is so good at what he, part of that is if you are an investigative journalist, you do have to have that bloodhound mentality of any whiff of something that's not right or something that's inconsistent, you gotta go and dig, and that's your job, is to be totally relentless. But yeah, I think in a situation like this where you look at, but is there any compelling reason for us to have to see Hulk Hogan's genitals and a video of can you think of any reason that that's in the public interest to reveal? And I do get the mindset of he's being a hypocrite. People need to know what this guy's really all about. But at the same time, it's so salacious and it's so unnecessary.
It did feel like the story could have been told with pixelation.
Or you don't need
or a screenshot.
Even yes.
Or they could have put a black bar. If they had put a black bar, Lon, do you think, or pixelated, let's say the genitalia, and they just put a black bar over it, and they played the same 90 seconds and didn't show anybody's naughty bits, as they say in London town, would this be an issue? Would we have gone to trial?
I mean, I think Hogan may very well have still pursued it, and as you sort of hinted at,
but might have lost.
Right, but that's what I was going to say.
And
emotionally, for the jury, the impact of seeing a black bar or pixelation is, they're being discreet, they're being responsible, whereas the impact of seeing a sex tape is what a bunch of skeezes to publish the sex tape.
There's a ridiculous amount of hubris with Gawker over the years, and with Denton, and Denton's pulled that back in recent years or two.
Yeah, this isn't even the worst thing that they've done by far. They outed that guy just because he was related to Timothy Geithner, and
that was the one, and that one had a ton of hypocrisy in it, but a civilian.
Right.
And this is where I think Nick Denton I saw a sea change in him, and I had a personal conversation with him, not about the CFO case, but what we're talking about, and I think it's okay to talk about it because this is a news program, and this information has already been leaked.
Yep.
And is out. I think we'll agree that's true.
Agreed.
So anyway, this person who's the CFO of Condé Nast, who is Tim Geithner's brother.
Correct.
Yes.
Is, or apparently is, a closeted or privately homosexual, whatever his business. He's married, and he was trying to set up a rendezvous with a gay escort.
Who then blabbed to
blabbed. And then in this case, you just think, my God, number one, who is this person? They're a civilian. It's not like this is Hulk Hogan or President Obama or Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton does not have the president having an affair with Monica Lewinsky impacts the world in a very deep way. So if there was a Monica Lewinsky, Bill Clinton sex tape, which there could be, how would this be any different? But in that case, they took down the post because people were so offended that even it's hypocritical that this person is married and has kids and is gay. Well, what if their wife understood that? And whose business is it of any of ours?
That's not hypocritical. If it's hypocritical if you're out there in public saying gay people are evil and we need to legislate against homosexuality, and homosexuality is a sin, and then you're having gay sex. That's hypocritical. And then I think you could make the argument this is in the public interest.
It's in the public interest if you're making policy.
Correct.
Look, you know once you become a politician and you are making policy.
Well, even if you're not making policy, if you're an activist, you're just out there and outspoken and in the public and leading a focus on the family.
This was Ed Koch as well.
Then I could see you being gay is hypocritical. But this guy who's not publicly known, who's not involved in anti-gay activism, he's just a regular guy who's leading a double life and doing something he shouldn't be doing. But what's that Gawker's business or my business?
This was the argument with Ed Koch. When I grew up in New York, I was enamored by this incredibly effervescent and engaging New Yorker, Ed Koch.
I remember him.
And the reason was my dad knew him. He would come to the restaurants in Bay Ridge, and he marched down the 3rd Avenue Festival with my dad, and they both had their arms raised, and I saw this, I just thought, wow, my dad's somebody. He's with the mayor of New York. This is a big effing deal. And he was a great mayor, from what I understand. And then I saw all of the, I started reading about all of this, that he who's his wife? And he's got like a friend, and it's kind of, and I don't know if this has ever been fully vetted, but it was pretty much, there's a really great documentary, I believe it's called Surviving a Plague, about AIDS, the AIDS crisis in New York City during the 80s when I was growing up. And I remember it because there was an activist group which was called ACT UP. And they would go to the Catholic Church. They would go to St. Patrick's Cathedral and all lay down and pretend they were dying in the middle of the aisles. It was like a very big thing in New York. And Ed Koch was out there, basically he didn't support AIDS research, or was considered by the AIDS community, by the gay community, as being a turncoat. I don't know if in fact he ever came out as gay or if that's ever been confirmed, but it was a big part of his personal life. I'm looking at his Wikipedia page right now to see if they actually even talk about it. But that was yes. I happen to believe there's nothing wrong with homosexuality. It's what God made you. It happens I'm a heterosexual. So
after he died, there were articles about looking back and talking about the rumors now that he was gone.
Yeah. So in that case, if you were in public office and you were,
I think if you are not,
outing of gay people who are anti-gay,
if it is not hypocritical, if you're not passing judgment on LGBT people, and you just happen to be gay, I don't necessarily.
Was there a reverend? There was a reverend who was,
I think that's more
smoking meth with right.
One of those
evangelical guys who was gay people are wrong, and then he was literally smoking crystal meth
with a gay prostitute.
Right.
Yeah, I forget which guy's name that was. I'll look it up.
Yeah,
but right.
So this is the difficulty of the whole kind of argument, because there is clearly some kind of line, but what is that line, and is there any way to actually enforce that line consistently? Frankly, I'm going to bring it up. Now we have another sex scandal in the news today. The Ted Cruz scandal, which came from the National Enquirer, which does have a track record of getting some of these right, like John Edwards. Is that okay to be to have that discussion in the public domain? And two, if there were a sex tape of him in the hypothetical, I know of none. If there was a sex tape between him and one of these people that he's alleged to have had an affair with, is that fair game, or are screenshots fair game? These are the questions that the Gawker story brings up. And I'm curious, what do you guys think? Is it fair game?
Would I award a publication, would I award Ted Cruz $150 million because a publication wrote this about him? Of course not. Having said that, I don't necessarily know if it qualifies as news.
I'm kind of tired of it.
In Ted Cruz's case, I think you could make the argument because the family values, religious belief stuff is so central to his whole message that it does touch on
the hypocritical thing.
There is also a difference with when you are the president of the United States. There is a different standard.
Correct. But even with Bill Clinton, they got into the stuff it was the fact that he covered it up that was the big deal about Lewinsky, not the fact that he had, there was even that discussion there. He was having an affair in the Oval Office.
Which does put the entire country at risk. I don't know if you guys watch the TV show The Americans, which is fabulous, by the way.
I do.
You watch it.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
One of the best shows on TV.
It's completely underrated.
Nobody's watching.
Nobody's talking about it. It's incredible.
It's so good.
Unbelievable.
It's really good.
If you start literally tonight, it's Friday, literally, we'll talk to you on Monday.
After Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
You'll get through 2 seasons of this, and you're going to like it more than Batman versus Superman, I guarantee. Here's the thing. Sex was used as a weapon
all the
frequently by the Russians, where Russian spies would have sex with American military people, etc., in order to blackmail them, in order to get secrets, etc., and they trained people.
It's amazing to watch how they use, I feel like I've learned more about how espionage really works from the Americans than anything. It's so cutthroat, and the people who are doing it are the thing that I find very fascinating about that show is the detachment in which the Russians go about doing it. Mm-hmm. Because they're the true believer. Like Kerry Russell, she's a true believer. She really believes she is helping her motherland and saving it. It doesn't matter that she's having sex with these guys to do this. It's just she is driven. It's a great show. Do you know about it? It's they're a married couple and they've got kids and they seem to be just normal suburban couple, but they're secretly Russian spies and they were sent over at age 16 to create this whole fictional life. But they're secretly at night sneaking out. Their kids don't even know.
Okay.
they're sneaking out at night to like be spies. It's great.
What happened at this Apple launch this week? I was watching. Okay, I think we can put together put the Gawker thing to bed. He's going to win on appeal. It's going to go down to 10 or 20. My prediction. What's the prediction?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is still a judgment that Hulk Hogan wins against Gawker. I don't think he wins. What he won now is like what, double the actual value of Gawker? Isn't Gawker worth like $83 million?
84.
And he won 104?
Well, Gawker has $44 million in revenue.
Right.
Or in 2015 it did. So let's say, I think it maybe have gone down even because I know the Gizmodo and the Gamergate thing really
also
cost
the
a lot of
question
money. Let's say it's making $50 million. And has a 20% margin.
I think that's
10 million. 10 million times 20 is 200 million. So the largest it would be worth would be 250 million. Tarnished the way it is, half that price or a third. So I would say it's worth between 70 and 150.
Right. So I don't think Hulk Hogan is going to get Gawker and he will be the owner. But I do think
That would be funny, though.
Best website in the world.
I literally tweeted to him, hey, I did a tweet, Dear Hulk. Can we partner on IO9? And what's the other one? I like a life hacker. Because I was like, you know what? If he does win it, he needs somebody to run IO9. We can make a JV because I like both those sites, Lifehacker and IO9.
I think the award, the judgment will stand. I think he'll just get a lot smaller award.
10 million, 20 million.
10,
I think that I don't even think it's going to go to that. I think he's going to lose, and they'll just settle for 10 million. It's done, and an apology. But I think that this is, in a way, I do think that this is a good thing because I do think at a certain point in time we have to ask ourselves like, what is the point of like ruining people's lives over this? Like the frappening to me. Fappening?
Yeah.
The fappening.
Fappening.
Like fap is the internet slang for masturbating.
Right. Thank you for that. I'm so old now.
We have the Urban Dictionary.
Yeah, the Urban Dictionary.
today.
Fappening. And it's
Frappening would be like you go to Starbucks and get a delicious icy.
and the
cool drink.
fappening is the sound of a male masturbating.
Well,
of flesh
think
being.
of the happening plus fapping is the fappening.
But what's fapping? Fapping is masturbation.
Fapping
It's
is
the sound.
masturbating.
I'm not going to. I'm not going to.
Fap. No, I got you. All right.
It's a Reddit. It's a
Reddit thing.
Or
So anyway,
4chan. It might have been 4chan, then
I,
Reddit.
you got to feel. I mean, so those were stolen. In this case, I don't know if it ever came out how this tape was acquired. If it was stolen or employed.
But the Hogan
was
tape.
it was stolen by some third party who tried to sell it to Gawker.
I thought Bubba the Love Sponge sent it somewhere. Not to Gawker.
Not to
Somebody
Gawker.
sent it to Gawker.
Got it. So anyway.
But I think Bubba the Love Sponge is the one who put it in circulation.
Anyway, bottom line, I do think we probably want to live in a world where people are allowed to have their private life. You know, I just feel like it's.
I mean, I think.
And I'm a journalist. It just what would it have cost them in terms of the story to pixelate it or use a screen grab?
I think it's good that there are examples in the world of journalists getting in trouble for stuff like this, so that next time there's a discussion. And I don't want it to be so nobody ever publishes anything that's in the public interest again. But it's good to have that discussion of, should we do this? Is it possible this is the wrong thing to do? Like, that's a good thing for us.
If you publish, somebody's. Some poor girl or guys, especially because some of these people are teenagers or young adults, like their iPhone gets hacked, they took a bunch of sexting photos, and then you publish it, and not pixelate it or not put a bar on it. Like, you're just doing it for page views. We all know what the game is.
Right.
It's like the.
Well, I mean, Gawker didn't run unpixelated fappening. So they weren't running Jennifer Lawrence's.
Because it was
iCloud
post
photos.
the Hogan thing.
Right.
So I think their behavior post Hogan. So this is going to net have a positive impact on maybe some level of decency.
One would hope. But that's what punitive damages are for. You want companies to stop before they do something damaging and think, is it worth the legal trouble to do this? Is it worth the risk?
One of the guys who helped with the fappening hack just get
Literally last week.
last week.
5
went to
years?
jail.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Serious
Which
stuff.
deserves.
Yeah,
at
of course.
least-
Ruining people's lives.
Don't break into people's iClouds and steal their naked
It's
photos
not
and put them
cool.
on the internet, guys.
Yeah.
That should be against the law.
Well, there's a thing in technology
Well, it
which
is against the law.
That's right. It's good.
breaking.
That's against the law.
Breaking and entering is against the law, whether it's on a phone or in somebody's
But
house.
it's amazing how when
Unless you're the FBI.
information-
Exactly.
I'm trying to remember what I tweeted last week. It was about Hannibal. Did you see one of the producers of Hannibal wrote an op-ed where she said, "Hey, thanks for pirating our show. It was like one of the top 5 most pirated shows, and then it got canceled after 3 seasons because no one was watching it where they were supposed to be.
Yeah.
So they didn't get.
Do
to
you
keep
buy that?
making it. I mean, it is true that the ratings were inversely proportional to how pirated it was.
Right.
Like, Game of Thrones is the most pirated show, but it's HBO, so I get that. Hannibal's on NBC.
You don't have to pirate it.
You don't have to pirate it. You could just watch it. But there's people who, like, they don't have cable or it's easier or whatever.
I think it's the frictionlessness of...
And it's binge it. You can wait till the end of the season, download all of it.
International.
Right. Well, it's actually a European show. It was
Is it?
Gaumont, the French company, made it. So
Right.
it was a co-production.
But it's my point is, I think it's an international sensation. So I wonder out of that, if, like, let's say 1 million people were watching it every month, were 800 of them in India and China and places that don't have access to it.
Sure.
In other words,
there's no legal way to access it.
Of course.
Here,
And I mean,
yeah.
and then
part
how
of
is
it. And
Netflix
listen,
and Amazon not picking it up?
I wouldn't deny, like, I've never watched a torrent of, like, a BBC
They can't pick
show.
up everything.
This is not
They've
gonna
been
be
picking up more and more, but they can't pick up everything.
Right.
And there's a certain, like, they do. I know at Netflix there's an internal calculation of, like, which things is going to bring in new audiences. Is our audience going to like? This is why, like, Fuller House and the Sesame Street things, because they were like the children's
Adam
side.
Sandler. Oh, like, they're thrilled with this Adam Sandler thing.
Well, Ridiculous Six got so watched.
It costs.
It got so watched, and then I clicked on it because I was like, let me just read the description. It had 1 star.
Doesn't matter. Adam Sandler
Doesn't
fans
matter.
don't care about how many stars something has.
I think that, know what I think it is? I think Adam Sandler fans are so stupid, they think 1 star means the best. They're like, this is number 1.
Here's what I think is interesting. Now you're getting, because there's an animated show called Young Justice. It's like a DC universe.
Yeah, no, I know it. We watch it.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
We watch
so-
it. My daughter's into this. Yeah.
Great. It's
Good show.
it's a really good show. I like it. So it got canceled after 2
Wait, you're an
seasons.
adult.
It's still good.
I have no excuse.
It's one of those shows that does a good job of appealing to both,
Thank
and
you.
now
Like
they're talking
Rebels?
About, you're right.
Star
they're talking
Wars
about,
Rebels?
Like Star Wars Rebels.
Yes. And
Exactly,
they're talking
exactly
about,
like Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah, and they're talking about taking that show at Netflix.
Right. Well, but what's interesting is I follow one of the producers of that show who tweets all the time, hey, if you're a Young Justice fan, go watch season 1 again. Because they know that if Netflix sees the views go up, there's a greater chance that they'll get picked up by Netflix.
So actually, the reason I watched a
it.
few of the episodes because I heard about the Netflix thing. I'm like, well, look at it. I'm like, this is a really well done show.
Yeah, it is. But so that mechanism to me is fascinating. It's like now you're just trying to get your audience, like, watch us more on these streaming systems to let people know that there's support for this show.
All right.
Anyway, I do take the Hannibal producer. Like, I think it's an interesting point, whether or not it's exactly true or whatever.
I hear your Screen Junkies coming out.
But the point I was going to make is, all I did was tweet, hey, yeah, stop illegally downloading shows, which to me is like, you shouldn't steal things. And the blowback that I got from people who feel like they are 100% justified in illegally downloading any piece of entertainment that they want, because they want it, because why would I pay if I don't know if it's good, or why would I have to go seek it out if it's hard to find, or it's just like it's my right because it's online.
Okay.
As somebody who makes content, that makes me insane.
Let's do our little speed round here. There's some new stuff out, products,
Yeah.
etc. And one of them is Hulu VR. I'm putting it up on my screen right now. I have no idea what Hulu VR is. I don't know if we can get sound up in here.
Hulu in VR.
But
guessing.
here is Hulu. That's the Hulu logo. We see that there. Here is
Modern
the
Family and
Samsung gear, and you put the Samsung gear on, and now
There you go.
you look really stupid when you're looking around your house at your walls. But in fact, what's happening is you're navigating a curved menu.
Got it.
My God, that provides no value. It's literally like a dude is eating popcorn,
Well, here's the thing with
and he's
VR,
scared. He just literally threw awkwardly popcorn at himself.
What kind of...
This woman is fake laughing.
I could totally see VR being amazing if
Now
you
that's
were-
amazing. The boxing and the nature stuff, I'm in.
If you were in, if but
It's too early right now.
Yeah.
So
like,
look.
missing the touch part.
There's still not enough content that trying to adapt television content for VR makes little sense because you really can't get much of the experience out of it. But when you create content for VR, like I got to, like when GDC was in town, I got to try like the new Eve game, which is just utterly fantastic of an experience. It adds so much value being able to use it in the Rift, or Next VR being able to experience sporting events in complete 360. So they're the company that does the filming and the recording, and has the technology for filming all the sports events and other things. It's utterly fantastic to experience. Or the virtual reality company, which was founded by Guy Primus, the guy who used to run Will Smith's film studio, and they're building amazing VR content. outside of that, it makes no sense. So Hulu does not have enough content yet. It's too early.
Yeah.
It's mostly
The thing I saw that was very cool was, having put on a couple of VR headsets, is they were doing some nature ones, and this was a scuba diver going down, and they're, and I'm looking through it, and I look up, and it's like, oh, there's 100 hammerhead sharks above me in the Galapagos. Like, this is going to be really cool.
The one that I've seen that seems amazing is that there's Six Flags. Have you guys seen this? They've got one of their coasters that they give you gear. I think
Yeah.
When you get on it, and then you're on a roller coaster, but you're seeing yourself flying through a city fighting aliens. Like they've made.
That's like the California Adventure, isn't it? There one in California Adventure.
Well, yeah, but it's not. I mean,
where you fly over California.
when you
it's
have
got
it adds to the experience.
Right. It's got a curved screen, so in California Adventure, you could look left or right, but
Oh,
it's not
wow.
VR.
Right.
This is, you have it's full 360 while you're on a roller coaster.
That
To
sounds
me,
interesting.
That's VR and AR.
That's amazing. Like, right, to me, that's...
So now you're like piloting an X-Wing.
It's
Yeah.
the feeling of it. It's the feeling. You're moving
Right. Your whole
through
mind
this
is-
environment.
You need to try the new Eve game that was on Oculus. It's
That's
utter
the
like
stuff
wow.
that's like,
Okay.
and when you see people playing like Fallout and they're like running on the track, and you
But
can
here's the
move
thing:
around, like,
it's
to me,
still too
that's so
early.
integral.
Most people haven't been exposed. It's not like television where you can have one for the entire family. So it's going to be a number of years.
I
until-
ordered the Oculus. It's like $600. I feel like an idiot. It's still not here, but I don't know what that's going to be. $600 plus I'm going to have to buy a $2,000 computer.
You got to buy a fast computer.
I gotta buy a
that's
rig.
The
I'm
PlayStation-
literally
did
going
you
to
see?
use it 4 times, and it's going to cost me $600 each time I use
the
it.
PS4 version, it's
I
only like
heard.
100 extra bucks, and it runs on your PS4, so you don't have to go buy a separate computer.
What the hell am I going to do with the PS4? I don't have time for this nonsense.
Just for your VR, it'd still be cheaper than your
You can
Oculus.
watch your
set.
Netflix on PlayStation.
And yeah, Blu-rays.
So I'm going to pay.
It's going to get cheaper and
All
it's
right,
going
here
to
we
get
go.
more accessible.
Baby X is an AI system that understands and employs facial expressions as part of its learning process. Everybody look at this creepy baby. These are adults. Pull it up. And that is a baby that looks like it's about to murder everybody and has really sharp fangs. I don't know exactly what the point of this is. What's the point of this?
They're trying to
baby?
make
An AI system that understands and employs facial expressions as part of its learning process. I got it.
There was also there was that
I
robot.
see.
There was that Android this week too. That there was like a CNBC story about it where she can make realistic emotional faces. So you
Got
can,
it.
and it's designed for like
Empathy?
community service and therapy, like interacting with people. So like it can, if you're talking to it and you say something sad, it can make a sad face, like it's hearing you.
Oh.
And it
So
knows
basically,
how
like
to
at the
read your
DMV, it'll
emotions.
be like really nice to you at the DMV and.
I guess so. I don't know exactly
Because
what the application is.
if you're going to use AIs at those kinds of things, it either has to be completely not human looking or has to be completely human looking.
There's a big debate we had with Cafe X was like, should we name the robotic arm? And it was like, yeah, let's just get people their coffee and get them the hell out of here.
I mean, I think down the road that'd be you would do that at some point, make it like a fun.
We
thing.
thought it could be funny, like name each one. Okay, here is this is a motorcycle windshield concept from Samsung. Samsung coming up twice. Okay, that is a motorcycle.
We saw something like this. At
And
the
this is like a
launch.
scooter. Okay,
Yeah,
now
the
this person's going to
helmet.
text while they're on the.
Yeah, but that helmet's Scully.
That's the Scully helmet. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is different. This is a windshield, and it blocks the wind apparently, and then it connects over to a phone, and then something is happening here. Let's see. He's
Giving
hitting
you
the
your
brake
headset
lights.
display.
Yes. Oh, there it is. Oh, call coming in. That's just what you want somebody on a motorcycle to do, is to be taking phone calls. And you can see the speed you're going and what turn you should make. That's cool.
Can you not see the speed you're going on a conventional motorcycle?
I think the idea is
it's not electronic.
automatically SMS replies to your dad. Isn't it funny that this entire demo has to do with messaging and being on the phone while on a motorcycle? You should, first of all, you should never go on a motorcycle. Second of all, you should never be operating any vehicle and talking on the phone, because talking on the phone is as distracting to people
As holding it.
as holding it. That's a
Wow.
great smart windshield. What it should be doing is, this is a horrible, horrible presentation. What the smart windshield should be doing there is telling you the distance, the speed of what's in front of you, and the likelihood and the percentage chance that you're going to die.
Well, that's what the Scully helmet that I thought was so interesting about it is, one, it's direction, so you don't need to look at the signs, which
Right.
is distracting you. And it's exactly what you're saying, like, back up, you're too close to this car or whatever.
Yeah.
It's not like,
No, I
I
think-
got a text from grandma, I'm going to take that
How
while
about
I'm
we just
on my
hack
bike.
all the Samsung windshields, and I'm just going to put a giant message, which is going to say, "You're probably going to die today." And that's all
No,
it
here's
says.
here's the thing. This is what I want to do. Every time you get in, it plays for you the video scene while you're starting it up of the last person who died on a motorcycle, like completely graphic.
Red asphalt.
Like just like here is the body parts, like these gruesome websites. Like I forgot what they used to be called, but
There was Faces of Death was the big one.
Faces of Death was the movie when we were kids that
They have Reddit
had
for that
the
now.
like.
They have that Reddit. What,
Oh, is there,
WTF.
like-
Reddit/r/WTF.
Right.
Okay, because there was a ogreish, or in the early days of the internet, there was this very controversial website where all of the
Well, it was something awful.
Something Awful, was it?
Yeah.
So there was one even
I
before
think you're
that,
thinking of
ogreish,
Something Awful.
or maybe
the precursor to
precursor
Something
might be
Awful.
ogreish or something. But anyway, it was like people would pull it up and show you. You'd be like, oh my god, is that like? It looks like something out of
Do you remember?
a B horror film, and in fact, it's like no, that is a person's
we're just
body
getting into the-
splattered.
We're just getting into the part where I think we agree that motorcycles are extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
And
All right, well, I'm being facetious though, but what should happen is it should actually tell you the likelihood of an accident on a percentage basis. So if you are proper distance, it should be green, and then as you get too close, it should say 45% more likely to get in an accident. That would be a really
or just,
interesting
it
thing,
doesn't
like
have
as
to
a
have
training
just
device.
a color and a sound.
Yeah, I mean, it
Like,
could
you're
be
too
green
close.
if you're
I know,
safe,
but-
yellow if you're too close, red if you're really in trouble.
Yes, but see, the thing is, you have to explicitly remind people of how dangerous and how fragile life is. This is why children who are driving cars today should be given an audio, like literally, when your car goes above a certain thing, the parents should program into it. This is when my daughter gets of driving age, and if it probably wouldn't, my daughter's probably not going to drive cars,
She'll be
but
sitting in the back.
yeah, it's been in the back. But anyway, it'd be a tank. But what it should do is it should literally, as a parent, you should record. You're going 66 miles per hour in a 35. I am going to beat your ass when you get home. What the? Like if my dad recorded
Does it
that.
tell the parents too? Does it ping your
Yes, I have to
phone?
say it should literally fire
Yeah,
up
so
a
it's like-
All right, we're
FaceTime
gonna
window.
Ifed it, just ifed it, and if
If
hits
66,
Yeah.
it calls you, and then you can
and
be like,
FaceTime on the fucking
Yes.
dashboard. Boom.
Yes.
This is
There,
why
that's a good
I
idea.
should be in charge
Needs to be.
of the planet.
Of Samsung.
of the planet. Oh no.
Of the planet.
We went from mayor to Samsung
Planet
to of the planet.
CEO of Samsung. Just run the whole show.
The CEO of Planet. CEO of Planet.
Yeah.
That would be a great thing. Like if.
For the planet that was CEO.
Well, I don't know. See, here's the thing with
How
cars.
about a world dictator?
Yeah, no, but cars are
Great
smart enough
thing.
today. I think dictator would be good title. I like it. It would be. I think the thing that would be really good about this though is if
Kick off your mayoral campaign the right way.
exactly. That'll
This
be
is
the
going to
quote.
be used
Like, literally,
against you in
they're
your.
like, this
the
is the
very
quote.
first-
Yes.
Gavin Newsom's gonna be like, I mean, listen, here's the tape. The guy wants to be a dictator. No, but there are some things I should dictate, which is these car companies should build features that when a child has the license, the license should have to be plugged into, just like in The Fifth Element. When
Or
you're
like with the breathalyzer. Like,
just like about
yeah.
that, there's no
Car won't
reason
start,
that a
whatever.
credit card-like device I'm not saying for adults, I don't want people tracking everybody, but when you're in the training period for the first 2 years of driving a car, you should have to put a card in a slot. It should check that it is you with some kind of biometric, and it should record everything you do. And then it should all be saved, and it should be given to your parents, and it should be at the DMV, and if you take that car out when you're 18, whatever, 15 to 18, everything is
It's
recorded.
not going to matter anyway. in a few
Everything's
years.
recorded.
It's not going to matter anyway because the driving trend is decreasing for the young, whatever generations after millennial or whatever the hell we call it anymore. But that trend is decreasing. I agree with you, but we won't need to use it because no one's going to use cars. It's all going to be self-driving.
Here's an oven
it's
for
unlimited.
stupid people. It's called June. This woman looks like
I-
Miranda July. Hold on a second. Miranda July, or what's the Sarah Silverman is putting in. They couldn't get Sarah Silverman. She's putting some stuff in the oven.
So you
It
just
tells her
You tell
cookies.
it what kind of food
I'm
you're making.
I'm extreme. No. It
Hold on a
detects-
second. Oh, it's got an HD camera. That's pretty dope. All right. It shows you. Okay, that's dope. It has a camera in there, and you see your cookies on your phone, and then you can put the video on
You
Instagram.
can Instagram it while it's still cooking.
No. So I have
This is genius.
buy one now. Seriously.
When this chicken reaches a very specific core temperature.
It's pretty cool, actually.
So
I wanted to make fun of
Once it
it.
does, June turns up the heat.
Oh.
it automatically does it all.
The outside is crispy, and the inside is
Yeah, it's pretty
The
smart.
camera detects automatically what kind of food and sets the settings automatically.
to me all
So if it's about to burn your chicken, it knows that's too dark and it stops it, or it just
Yes.
knows.
June oven.
It'll lighten up. It'll give you warnings. It'll give you notifications.
Did you invest in this?
I'm dear friends with the founders.
Who's that?
It's Matt Van Horn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I emailed him about it, and he never got back to me because I was like, hey, we should show this at the thing. It's the same one.
Yeah, so
It's good.
I got to go over and I got to see it a couple weeks before.
I don't like the
a while.
spokesperson. They should have gone with Miranda July.
But I've used it
Inside
and I've
joke
tried
from
it. It is really fantastic, and they've done a ton of engineering.
And what does this toaster oven cost?
A lot.
It's like $500, isn't it?
Probably more. I think it's maybe $1,500 because it's a full oven.
It's a toaster oven. Come on.
Well, it says it bastes and broils and roasts, and like you can't do all that in a toaster.
No, it does. It is a full.
It's not huge though, but the HD camera is that's game over.
Well,
For
so
me, to be able to take my phone out when I'm like upstairs and see the cookies, I think that's genius.
Here's what I don't understand, and I'm sure it's a technical challenge they figured out, but how does it know? It knows what food you've put in it. I get that, but how does it know what you're cooking? Because like you could put in like if I put in like that turkey, like depending on how I'm cooking it.
Do you see the thermometer?
No, you pick a recipe. See, she has an iPad. Look, you'll see.
So it's not.
See the iPad app?
So it's not just she's putting food in and then it automatically is like,
No.
It will
green
give
bean
you
casserole.
So here, I did the demo.
You follow the
And we
recipes.
put like a bagels in there, and it detected it was bagels, and then gave here's the settings you
Oh,
can,
really?
and then you can pick other things. Yes.
Oh, it actually detects the food type.
Yes.
Right, that's what he said.
It
That's what's
detects
confusing
the
to me
food
because
type.
Some types of food,
It
it'll
is
look
awesome.
the same, but you want to cook it at
Yeah,
different
because when you're putting in your,
temperatures.
I agree with you, because when you're putting in your maple bacon donuts,
Right.
how would you know that's not like a poppy seed bagel? It's very similar.
So well, you
I'm
start.
just saying, like okay, but like roast chicken. Like sometimes you're going to put in a pan. You want it needs to cook for 400 at this temperature.
Well, I think what it is you pick the recipe long.
I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying like I'm
I don't
just
think it
interested.
does it all through visual. I think you have to pick the recipe too.
Yes.
If you want to do
That's
that.
It'll
what I
give you.
would've
It'll
thought.
give you an auto suggestion of one,
Ah.
and then you can pick if
okay.
you want. Like it detects chicken.
Right.
Well, how do you want to cook your chicken?
There you go, 'cause that's
and
what I was
And it
like-
also has the weight. It has. They went through. I'm just gonna say they went through so much engineering to do this. The engineering to make it so that you would have a camera that would not burn to death in the
Right.
oven,
Yeah.
and have the touch screen. And they hired some of the best Apple engineers. And recruited the hell out of them in order to do this. This is the full Apple engineering process. So I know it's good, and I've used it, and it is great.
All right. Congratulations to the June oven. I'm going to buy one. It's ridiculous. Listen, what have we learned today here? We've learned that Lon is voting for Bernie Sanders.
if it's an option that's left open to me, I would do that.
You would? Are you Bernie? You feeling the burn?
I am feeling burned. I mean, I'll vote for the Democrat in this race.
You
No,
anybody
I
but
would-
Trump?
I would. Well, no, I mean, not.
I will
Cruz, but like.
Oh,
I would
let me ask you that.
I would vote for Hillary or Bernie against Kasich, Cruz, or Trump. That's how.
If you were forced to vote for Republican, who would you vote for?
Out of the three who are left.
Rank them.
I mean, John Kasich's definitely the one who's most closely aligned with
he's
me.
got no
Least
chance,
insane.
so we
but
take
he's
him
got
out.
no chance, and there's
Okay.
a million things about him that I loathe.
Okay, so
I don't
now
think that
let's really make it hard for you.
Cruz or Trump.
Creepy Cruz, or insane reality show Trump. What are you going for?
I gotta say, I think I would probably go Trump out of Cruz versus Trump.
Why?
I know
Why?
that's shocking.
No,
I know people.
no, I'd
don't
rather
like it.
saw my arm
I
off.
understand the
Here's
thinking.
why. Because Trump is
Don't vote.
Trump's only loyalty is himself and his ego and narcissism, and I think he'll do whatever he is best easiest going to get him the most good press in the moment,
Right.
which is scary. But Ted Cruz is committed to an ideology that I think is almost evil. It's sinister.
Can I just please?
He's anti-gay, right?
Cruz is anti everything
Because
good
I
and
saw he
wholesome.
got up on and somebody introduced him, and the guy was introducing him was like, it's
Yes.
right here in the Bible. The Bible
Yeah.
says
No,
gay people are
he's-
going to die and have to be burned,
I
and
think maybe
Christ
you're
is
thinking
going
of
to.
Phil Robertson, the Duck Dynasty guy, is maybe who you're thinking of. Who he is
So look.
Somebody
I
was
disagree on
introducing
this
him
one.
who was
Okay.
so.
I think Trump is
with hate.
worse. In terms, I would never vote
All right,
for
so
either.
I mean, yeah, they're
no,
both
I know that.
despicable.
That's why this is such a
No,
great question.
I will not vote. I would not vote, or I would cut my fingers off.
Gun to your head. You got to play the
Shoot
game,
me.
Ben. You got to. Ben. Gun to Lon's head.
Even better. Thank you.
Trump, everybody.
All right, let me. Okay, so look,
All right.
it would be.
Gun to a puppy's
tactical. Here's the thing. The problem with Trump is not just Trump. It's the fact that it makes it okay for authoritarianism and dictatorial tendencies to be okay in U.S. political life and political elections. And we are a country where we believe in freedom and democracy and the people's choice. We have never had a dictator. We have term limits. We have checks and balances. We are built upon that. And by electing someone like Trump who threatens to expose your secrets, who threatens you to
punch
if you oppose him, is a pure dictatorship and leads to something far worse. And is something that we must oppose in its totalitarian.
So you would go Cruz. Or would you kill the puppy?
I would, to save the country, I will kill him.
It's such
Like
a
at the
I'm not saying that you have to pick one. So you're saying you would pick Cruz? I mean, you have to.
They're giving us the two worst
I
options
understand. You
in
have
America.
to pick one. You would pick Cruz.
Cruz would only do damage in the short term. Trump will do permanent damage to all of humanity.
I have to play the game too.
Cruz starts with his carpet bombing ISIS stuff. That's permanent
Could
damage.
be World War III. Okay, here we go. I'm going to tell you.
And he believes that's a Trump's
wanna hear
lie.
this.
Correct answer. All right. What we're seeing is the end of the two-party system. And that is ultimately a good thing. However, the collapse of the two-party system could also mean the collapse of, it has resulted in the collapse of civilized politics or any kind of intellectual discourse. And it's been a long time since we've had any kind of civil intellectual discourse. 10, 20, I don't know how many years since we had Clinton and Bush having an intellectual argument about this stuff, and then we just devolved into, further Bushes and Obama and everybody just ranting at each other and screaming at each other. I don't know when the middle of the aisle, was removed and everybody went to either corner, but it's happened sometime in our lifetime in the 80s and the 90s. It's going to all come apart. It's coming apart. How much of America we lose in this process is what's at stake. And I think the emergence of a third party or the emergence of a third party candidate could happen still. I hope that does. But I think that this is going to be a very dark period for America. And I think it's going to be 2 or 3 election cycles of very darkness. But the darkest hours are before the dawn. And we're going to have to ride out, 20 years, 10, 20 years of just really ugly collapsing of our society. And I don't know if we get through it. This could be like the end of our empire, and it could be, this concept of Trump telling people he will pay their legal bills if they punch people is truly scary. And to tell you how scary this is, and I hope this prediction doesn't come true, but when violence peaked like this in the 60s, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Bobby Kennedy, John Kennedy, a lot of people were shot and killed because everything became so explosively, and we didn't live through this, but we can only read about it, but things got exactly like they are today. I think that it's completely possible that Trump will be assassinated or killed at some time in the next couple of months because you cannot put out this kind of hate. And by the way, I don't think it's going to be by a political person. I think there are legions of mentally ill people who are suffering out there, who are watching this spectacle, and in some way it inspires them, just like poor John Lennon, was murdered by a mentally ill person. This kind of vitriol and insanity leads to insane behavior and repercussions that are unpredictable. And that's what makes me very concerned.
I agree with everything.
You have to pick.
Yeah, but Cruz's vitriol is just as disgraceful in a lot of ways.
I pick the downfall of the two-party system as fast as possible, so I'd actually pick Trump if I had to pick between Cruz and Trump. But I think it doesn't matter. I think both of them represent the end of the Republican Party.
Well, I think we've already...
No Republicans want either of these people. So the Republican Party has lost control of their own party. It's in a tailspin.
So here's the one part of the problem.
And it's been in a tailspin since George Bush.
With the
Iraq War and,
Yeah, I mean, there used to be this notion, and again, almost before my time, because by Reagan this was already on its way out the door. But there used to be this notion that even though the Republican Party was for wealthier Americans, it was for business people. There was still this idea of, but you have a social responsibility. If you're a CEO, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a wealthy person, you don't want, for your own personal greedy reasons.
Tread lightly here.
You don't want the poorest people to be so desperately poor that they rise up, that they overthrow the system, that they threaten you. Yeah. And you also want, just in a selfish way, like, you want cities to be nice. You want there to be parks. It
would be nice to have a functional society with consumers who could actually buy the products that we're selling.
And somewhere along the lines, and it goes back sort of to what I was saying about this idea of like ultimate free market, Hunger Games capitalism, which, like we wiped out that idea. And the idea became that no, the Republicanism, the GOP should just be consolidating all the money, consolidating all the power in a smaller and smaller and smaller group until now you have, the top, whatever Bernie keeps on.
It's not even by
the half of a half of the top of the 3% of the 1%.
Like that guy.
That whole thing.
Right. And that's what's happened. Thank you. I think that is already the end.
And by the way, that is not even just Republicans. I mean, look at the Democrats.
Right.
I mean, a lot of the polarization of wealth is Bill Gates, Larry Page, and Zuckerberg.
It's happening on both sides, and I think that now you've got this party that is really two parties. You've got the populist Trump party,
and then the conservative,
the Mitt Romney wing of the party, or the
business wing,
right? Or
then you have the Hillary, like old school Democrats, and you have the Bernie young people disenfranchised.
Right, I mean, and on both sides, I mean, it's like Hillary represents this. If you're relatively happy with the status quo, things could maybe tilt a little left, you're for Hillary. If you're like, the system is crazy and it's the rich people's fault, you're for Bernie. And I think that,
I do like about Bernie
that's the end of Republicans.
Continuing education and state schools being free. We had state schools for free. We already have state schools for free.
When you say free college,
it's so dumb.
Crazy. But if you were like, just extended K through 12 is now K through 14.
That's exactly what I was tweeting. I was like, what's the difference? We're already paying K through 12. Make it pre-K through 15.
But again, it's this whole idea of like, but we shouldn't be paying for anybody's school. Free money. Like, you should have to pay for school. And you should, that would be better.
All right. Thank you to our sponsors. Thank you to Ben. And thank you to Lon. Squarespace, you're awesome. Scott Walker, you're awesome. Thank you so much. Everybody follow Ben Parr with 2 R's on the Twitter. Follow Lon on Twitter @Lons. I am going to be off of social media for another 95 days while I try to get a lot of stuff done. Everybody go to inside.com and follow the Inside Daily Briefing, which Lon is writing twice a day. It is awesome. Good job on that.
Thank you. It is not it's political, but it is not my political views.
No.
It is purely...
It's curation at its best.
As straightforward and middle of the road and unbiased as possible.
You can go check out the Tech Caucus with the .us at the end, cleverly. And we're going to do this Angel Summit in the summer, so if you're an angel investor, launch Angel Summit. And we're taking incubator applications for my next incubator class, in which we spend 12 weeks, 18 sessions with 7 companies, and we give them $250,000 each. Ultimately, we give them a little bit of money in the beginning, a lot of money in the end, if they get through. And you can go apply, launchincubator.co. We're looking for companies that have finished products, not ideas or business plans. So if you have an idea or a business plan, start working on your MVP and get a product to market, and then apply to the launchincubator.co, unless you're like a super dope, like serial founder, in which case, maybe we would look at a little mock-up or whatever. But launchincubator.co, try to have some traction, try to have your product launched. That's when we can help you most in the Launch Incubator. Okay, well, thank you, award-winning producer Jackie, 4 Emmys, doing a great job making the show awesome. We'll see you all next time. Bye-bye.